Awesome. Okay, that should be good to go. All right. Happy Friday, everyone. It is September 5th. I am just really excited to see you guys again. I brag all the time with my colleagues here and even folks outside of the Ronald McDonald House space just about how special this think tank is. I've always got a lot out of these discussions. I get a lot out of just seeing your guys' faces, and it just really solidifies that we are one network. And even if we're hundreds of different houses, all doing things a little bit differently, it's all falling under the same mission, and we all have the same goals. And especially in volunteer management, there's just so much that we can all learn from each other, and we love stealing ideas. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Volunteer Management Think Tank. And we are, of course, as always, going to start with introductions. So if this is your first time joining us, please share that with us. But we're going to just kind of popcorn around one by one. Please just share your name, how long you've been with Ronald McDonald House, and what chapter you're in, of course. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Dylan Clark. I am the Community and Legacy Officer here at Ronald McDonald House Charities of Tampa Bay, hence me complaining about the humidity and heat for so long. And I've been in this role for just shy of 3 years now. I will popcorn it over to Amy. Sorry to catch anyone off guard.
Sorry, I forgot I muted myself. My name is Amy Bickford. I am the Guest Services and Volunteer Manager for Ronald McDonald House Charities of Maine. I've been here since 2018, 19, one of those years.
Pre-COVID times. It's all in the past. Awesome. Do you mind passing it to someone else?
Sure, Gia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gia Combs. I'm the Community and Volunteer Engagement Manager for Ronald McDonald House Charities of Greater Washington, D.C., and I have been here for 3 months now. Very new. Thank you. I'll pass it to Caroline.
Hello, my name is Caroline Baker. I've been with Ronald McDonald House for 1.5 years, and I am at the Ronald McDonald House of Central Iowa in Des Moines, and I will pass it to Iris.
So Iris is in the car right now. I don't know if she'll be able to introduce herself. Yep. She's on a road trip and very kindly wanted to still do some work on a road trip.
Yeah, so I'll pass it to, how about Melissa?
Sure. So Iris and I both work at the Ronald McDonald House of Cincinnati. Iris has been there about 1.5 years as our volunteer coordinator, and I have been there almost 11 years as volunteer manager. And I will pass it off to Jillian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jillian Pyatt. I'm at the Bluegrass chapter, which is in Lexington, Kentucky. I've been with the chapter for, I'm about to hit my 7-year anniversary, and I've had a couple of different roles. I'm currently our Director of Programs and Operations, which means I'm still the volunteer manager, and it'll be interesting for this conversation that we're having today. Let me pass it off. I got to go on to the next page. I'll pass it over to Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Hedges. I'm a volunteer manager at the Ronald McDonald House of Mid-Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. And I've been in my role since March of last year, so about 1.5 years as well. And I'll go ahead and I'll pass it to Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Meredith. I am at RMHC Idaho. I gotta start preparing to change how I say that for all of us. So it's like, I don't know about you, I need the mental time. I feel like get ready to say Ronald McDonald House. We're like next July, but I gotta practice now. Anyway, sorry for the diversion. You can tell my brain's in random mode. I have been here since April of 2018 in some capacity or another. So I will call on Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Thomas. I am the Volunteer Engagement Manager at RMHC of Central Florida, and I've been in that role for a little over 3 years now. Let's see, I'll pass it on to Nicholas. if Nicholas can talk.
Hello,
If-
sorry, can y'all
Oh.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay,
Thank-
perfect. Sorry about that. It was pulling up like all the things of like, would you like to use your microphone? And I was like, please let me just talk. But I am the volunteer coordinator at the Inland Empire Ronald McDonald House. I've been in this position since January.
Welcome.
Oh, and then I will pass it off to Daisy.
Daisy, I know you're just joining us, but if you don't mind, we're just doing introductions. So if you want to share just your name, your position, chapter, and how long you've been with Ronald McDonald House.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know why my camera's not working, so sorry about this. My name is Daisy Copton. We are from the Halifax, Nova Scotia chapter in Canada. In October will be my 4th year. Yay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let me take a look at the list. Is there anyone, if there's anyone that hasn't gone yet, feel free to just jump in. Lailani, did you go yet?
Not yet.
Well, I'm passing it to you.
Thank you. My name's Leilani Kitchens. I'm with the Ron McDonald House here in Temple, Texas. And I am the Director of House Operations. I've been in this position for 13 years. So I'm kind of senior to you guys. So anyway, yay.
Thank you, Lailani. Sorry, I don't have your name, but oh yeah, Vanessa, please.
Yeah, I'll hop in. I'm Vanessa Stoller. I'm with the Denver, Colorado chapter. I'm the volunteer manager here, and I've been here a little over 2.5 years. And my start with Ronald McDonald House started in North Carolina at another chapter in 2014.
Great. I think all that's left is, I'm sorry I don't have your name, but Ronald McDonald House that's joining us from Miami for South Florida.
Hi, sorry about that. My camera doesn't work, but I'm Mariana. I've been at Ronald McDonald House here in South Florida for 1.5 years as a volunteer program manager.
Great. Is there anyone that we missed that hasn't introduced themselves yet? I think that might be everyone. Going once, going twice. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm excited to jump into today's topic. For those of you that haven't checked, we are going to be discussing very broadly volunteer management department structures. So the last couple of weeks, as I knew I was hosting this, to be fully honest, I was a little selfish when I proposed this topic way back last December with Stephanie and Jillian, because I think that our chapter here in Tampa has a really unique structure to our volunteer team. But the last couple of weeks, as I was thinking through putting together an agenda for today or doing a worksheet or anything like that, I was kind of coming up blank because I realized that it's almost hard to go about this discussion before I know what each of your guys' unique structures look like. So before we actually begin, I wanted to start us off with a poll just so that we can all get a better idea of what kind of discussion we're about to have. So I'm going to hit launch right here. Let me know if you all can see that. And then if you don't mind taking a second to just fill out the poll. Can everyone see it? Is it? Okay, great. We have a couple people that want to join, so let me let them in.
I'm sorry, I cannot see it. Maybe it's my setting. I don't know. Where do I look for it?
I'm not sure. Where is everyone else seeing the poll? Did it just pop up for you, or do you have to go somewhere?
It pops up in the right-hand corner.
Okay. For those of you just joining, welcome. We just got through introductions, but we are just starting our discussion by form of this poll. I'm just curious what your guys' volunteer departments all look like. So please complete the poll. I'll leave that up for 30 more seconds or so. Cue Jeopardy music.
To answer your question, I was just going to say, if you're just joining us and it didn't pop up for you, if you hit the 9 dots that are blue on the right, the bottom right of your screen, you'll see a spot that says polls. And so if you click on that, it'll show you our current poll.
Thank you, Stephanie. how many folks do we have in here? 20, and we have 11, 16 votes. So just a couple more people to vote. Awesome. Do, 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 do. All right. I'm honestly a little surprised by these results, which is a good thing. I'm surprised very pleasantly. I was a little worried that today's discussion might be kind of difficult if like every single person said they were a one-person department, which would still, of course, allow for good discussion. But I'm glad that we have a bit of difference. And I'm honestly almost a little surprised that no one said half a position. I guess it makes sense since everyone is here that you are all at least full-time in volunteer management or in community. But I know that there are plenty of chapters, some of the smaller like grassroots houses, where it's the house manager that is managing all of their volunteers, and there isn't really a dedicated volunteer management or volunteer coordinator staff member. But if you guys can all see the results of the poll, right? Okay, good. So yeah, thank you guys for contributing to that. We may have some more polls later on, but other than that, like I said, this is going to be, like most of our think tanks, a very free-flowing discussion. So if this is your first time joining us, don't feel the need to raise your hands or wait for me to call on you or anything. If there's just a bit of a lull in the conversation after someone has made their point, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in with whatever it is you have to say. But now that we know a little bit more about what each of our volunteer departments are structured like, of course, the majority of us are on a one-person team, but we have about 4 of us that have a partner in crime, and then myself and 4 others of you are on a department of at least 3 people who are directly overseeing volunteers. Obviously, the needs of each chapter, like I said earlier, are completely different. So a lot of this department structure depends on the size of your house and the size of your chapter and the size of your volunteer base and just what your needs are operationally. So I'd love to hear more from some of you folks. First off, we'll start with some of you that said you have a team of 3 or more, some of those larger volunteer departments. Would you mind sharing kind of what each person's role is? Because at least in our case, yes, we have a department of 3 people, but we all have our hands in kind of very different cookie jars, so to say.
I'm going to go first because I have to take notes and I want to make sure I'm taking good notes for everybody else. So for us, technically, actually, it's weird because technically I am still a single person department, but our family services team is part of the operations team alongside me, and we all report to the same supervisor, and she basically did a restructure because she knew I couldn't do all that was needed by myself. And so we have on the family services side, the family services manager who does have interaction with volunteers at times. And then we have 4 leads who are sort of like shift leads. They, in addition to helping distribute tasks for everyone during the shift, 20% or more of their time is spent responding to volunteer emails, which has been a huge help to me. They are primarily responsible for ensuring that every new volunteer gets a tour, and they have primary responsibility if a common question comes in over the phone. So that's been very helpful to have them tackling those sorts of things. And then we have an additional 10 part-time staff who, while they don't have that as a primary part of their role, they do have responsibility to check in on volunteers. If a lead assigns them to do a tour, they do that. They often are managing the tasks that volunteers are doing. So they have a very heavy hand in the day-to-day operational side, which leaves me free to focus more and should increase my ability even greater in the future to engage corporate groups and school groups and like community clubs, things like that. So that's the goal is to free me up to do more of the community engagement side, and that our family services team tackles day-to-day stuff. So there you go.
I guess I'll jump off that just because ours is set up in the community engagement sense. We don't do a lot of the day-to-day management of the volunteers, but we do a lot of like getting people connected in the community with the opportunities, and then like just generally overseeing the opportunities between our 3 houses. So we have me and another volunteer manager, and then we both report to like a supervisor on our team. So there's like 3 of us staff on it, and then we'll usually have an intern as well. And our roles are, we do have distinct things we're over, but they are very blended as well. So we're very like trained in each other's different fields as well, just in case anyone gets sick and needs to step in or anything like that. And there's a little bit of a combination as well of we don't just do volunteer management, we'll do other things in the community too. So if there's like a community tabling event or someone wants a tour of one of the houses, and like our hospitality cart program, we're over that. So all those different kinds of things, but essentially my role tends to focus a lot on our like individual or like long-term volunteers and helping out in that sense. The manager on my team as well tends to focus a little bit more on our volunteers in the community or our like big corporate groups. And then our supervisor is kind of over everything, and that is the basic sense of it. There's a lot more to it, but that's generally what it looks like.
I can jump off of there too. Ours at Denver is kind of similar. I would still consider myself really, as Stephanie said, kind of a department of one. We have a part-time person who oversees our family room volunteers, and then our family services coordinator, her main priority is family services, but she does manage the volunteers, maybe about 20 folks who do pet therapy or massage and the services types things. Otherwise, I do all of the individuals and special projects for groups and all of the reporting and recognition kind of stuff. So similarly, doing those bigger picture things and all of the recruitment, going and speaking, touring, and recognizing folks. And then other folks are helping with that daily management when they're in the house.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. I won't spend too much time because our structure here in Tampa is pretty similar to what you guys described, where we're a team of 3 full-time staff members. Everyone kind of has their own lane, but we're all trained cross-functionally so that when one of us is out on vacation or out sick, we can all kind of jump in. I particularly do our like meal program and our on-site groups. My supervisor Bree does a lot of our more community engagement, corporate engagement stuff and outreach. And then Kiara does our in-house volunteer program, which all of those are definitely full-time jobs just because we do have 5 locations across geographical locations. Which of course just calls for more people, more hands. I'll ask some of you guys that just spoke, do you guys have a shared email address for like volunteer services? Yeah, okay. That is kind of the number one like standard operating procedure that we really recommend. They actually started that before I even came on the team, when it was just the 2 of them who were sharing that inbox. And it just really helps to clear up communication so that the 3 of us aren't constantly having to ask each other, like, did you get this email? Did you reply to this person? Did you blah, blah, blah? Did you CC them? Now we all just see everything that comes in and goes out, which is helpful.
Yeah, I'll say that's something that I kind of saw over the course of my time, like my last 3 years on the team, because when I first started, we all used our own like personal inboxes to communicate with volunteers. Big, like it worked at the time, but as things were like coming out of COVID and everything like that, we very much saw that it was causing a lot of like, both our own inboxes were like so crazy all the time. So we just get so much volunteer communication in, and then it would cause issues if like a staff member left or if someone was out sick and we couldn't see past communication that happened. So at this point, we pretty much transitioned into mostly using the volunteer inbox for all like the general inquiries, and that's really helped a ton. I'd like highly recommend.
So can I ask about that? Because we don't share an account at our house. If you're all seeing it, then do you just jump on and respond? If you're like, that's probably me. Is that how you do it? And that way you're saying people can see that you took care of it, but you guys just kind of decide on your own what you'll respond to?
Pretty much. It obviously sometimes it does create some like gray areas where we aren't really sure who will respond. And at that point, it's usually just hopping in a Teams message and be like, hey, have you got this one? Or like, I'm happy to respond. But for us, at least, each of our lanes are kind of clear as mud kind of thing, defined. That usually it's pretty clear, like, okay, this is a straight up volunteer application to work at the desk. So that's going to Kiara versus, oh, this is a question about signing up for the meal program versus, oh, this is like an outreach request. So usually the requests kind of, put themselves into those clean little buckets themselves. And if not, then and this is another topic I'll get to, is how often your guys' volunteer management departments are meeting up together and, having important meetings. But we meet every 2 weeks. So if, something lands in those 2 weeks, then we'll usually meet up and discuss it. Or of course, if it's more pressing, just shooting a Teams message. But you're right that there are definitely plenty of occasions where it really is in that gray area. And we've even had times where like me and Kiara will be drafting a response to the same email at the same time, and then we will send it around the same time. And most of the time we send the same information, but there's been like once or twice where we like almost contradict each other. So that's definitely one of the difficulties.
In my case, since I am one person, and if I'm out sick, of course, I have my own email, but we also have the volunteer email. So what I've been doing is sometimes you just have, direct conversations, but I always copy the volunteer email. So if, by chance I'm not here, anyone can hop on and see the conversation. Because some people do want that personal connection, right? So I always copy the volunteer email though, because it's always, good for the rest of the team to be able to know what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We try to, even when we are sending it from personal, CC the volunteer. This might just be my kind of ADHD, OCD brain, but for us, like standard procedure that's really helped with keeping that volunteer inbox organized is we use Outlook. I don't know if everyone uses Outlook as their main email. I would assume most people do. But we've really, and maybe this is obvious, but we've really taken advantage of the different folders that you can put inside your inbox, so that after an email chain has kind of been closed off, you can tie it off with a bow rather than just sitting in the inbox. We'll put that into like, okay, here's the folder for our teen program. Here's for meal requests. These are like former applications. And we even have different folders that are just like each of our names, so that it's a lot easier to go back even years later and find specific email threads when needed, and also just keep that inbox looking cleaner.
Yeah, we do something similar where we, in our shared email, at this point, initially I had primary responsibility for that, but it was a precursor to having a team helping me. And so it wasn't a problem when it was just me. But once we started doing that, then we instituted a completed folder so that if that question was answered, it could just go into completed. And periodically I do go through and delete, just because like applications, we don't really need to have record of that notification that came from our database that says we have a new application. Other things we might keep longer depending on the need. So that's helped. And since I now don't have primary responsibility, in fact, I almost never check it. Our current policy is that if it's something that I need to deal with, then they forward it to me, and then it's out of the volunteers inbox entirely for their purposes, just not because I don't want visibility, but because there's not a need and they get so many. I mean, we can get 50 to 75 emails on an average day. So it's a lot of interactivity. Another thing that we do have though for consistency is we have a shared document that has language about common questions. I think we're up to 17 pages of already drafted email responses, and that helps us all to say the same thing each time, and to make sure that questions are answered in a consistent way. It's a little bit tedious, but it helps us a lot. And so even if you are even if actually I started that document when it was just me and I didn't know I would ever have help, because I was like, I'm forgetting to tell this group this thing and this group a different thing. And that's been a game changer as we move to a team approach. So those are my tools.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Stephanie. That's definitely a huge thing we've done too, is those templates. We actually just have a folder in like Outlook, the inbox that's just called templates, and we'll just copy and paste those. And yeah, even if you are a one-person department, it helps to just, hey, I mean, save your fingers a bit of typing if you know that you're sending the same types of responses day after day. But then especially when you bring other people onto the team, it's good just to keep that messaging consistent. So yeah, definitely a great point. I'll hop on a soapbox for just a second because I know a lot of us said that we are just a one-person volunteer department. I would still stress the importance of having, rather than like your personal email with like first name, last name, having something that just says like volunteers at RMHC insert chapter name.org. Because even with a one-person department, we all know that, you know, we may not be at Ronald McDonald House or this chapter for our entire careers. And at some point, eventually, someone else is going to take on that role. And whether it's volunteer services or grant writing or donor relations, I always recommend that chapters just try to set up a really generic email address that multiple people have access to. Because I've seen time and time again from Ronald McDonald Houses and other organizations that as soon as someone moves on to a new position, that there is just so much knowledge and history and relationship building that is just completely gone with the wind. Unless your organization is doing a good job of keeping those notes stored in a CRM, it really is important to just have that in an independent email address so that then donors and volunteers aren't having to save a new email address to their accounts and files every couple of years. So just another good best practice in my opinion.
So I was going to mention talking about Outlook. So Iris and I are both part-time, and we both have our individual emails, and then we have the volunteer email. And we've reached a point where we kind of know exactly like who needs to answer what. But we do use signatures. So in Outlook, you can create signatures to have kind of those standard responses. We use those all the time. They're super, super helpful. And I have, I think, like 30 of them now. When I first started in this department, we had several people checking the email, and they would use flags. So like everyone would go through, and each person had a different flag that they would note, like, okay, I'm red and I'm taking care of this email. I'm green, I'm taking care of this email. I didn't love that way, but it was a good way if you have multiple people in there. I think that's really, really helpful. Our format at Ronald McDonald House in Cincinnati is a little different. And I put that there was only 2 people, but there's actually more of us because Iris and I are part of the people team. So we report to HR and are part of kind of the HR team. And then our, we call them like food and fun, our programs team. So meals, snacks, activities, work groups, they are under operations. So there's actually 2.5 of them. And then Iris and I kind of make one whole person. But the kind of the mindset behind that of making us part of the people team is they really wanted everyone in the house who's regularly there to have the same information and the same training and the same level of kind of responsibility and knowledge at the house. And so we consider all of our regular volunteers kind of part of our people at the house. And then everyone else who's more one-off is kind of, well, more one-off, you know, kind of people who just come into the community and not kind of our regular people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we do something similar. From someone who hasn't got the chance to speak yet, if you do have a team of like 2 or 3 people, is that pretty similar to the split where that's just what I've seen a lot is that one person focuses on the regular recurring in-house volunteers and maybe 1 or 2 other people are doing more of that like community engagement with the groups that are coming in and out day by day.
I put that I have 2 people, but it is a portion of my role, and then it's a portion of someone else's role. So really, we probably have 1 person, but there's 2 of us.
2 brains.
Which is great. And we do kind of like what you said. I am the main person, and then my team member Max helps with like when the dinner groups are actually there, because I can't be there, 17 hours a day. So he's more the like on-site person for evening stuff, but I've done all the pre-communication. I'm hoping to transition that a little bit and have more of a true split, but he's got other roles he's in charge of too. So it's all just trying to figure out who has the capacity to do what.
Yeah.
But I did put in the notes, I also use templates in Outlook for my emails. So if other people are looking for email solutions, that saves me a lot of time of writing the same thing over and over again and forgetting things. I had the same aha moment, Stephanie, where I was like, I don't think I told them what I was supposed to tell them because I was just typing away and hit send before I really thought about it. And that really helps keep me honest.
I've got to mention something about Jillian because last month we had a regional conference in Columbus. There's houses from all over the place. Alex came too, right? And Jillian led all the volunteer management sessions, and she did an amazing job. It was really, really fun. I got to meet a lot of people from different volunteer departments all across the country, and it gets bigger and bigger every year. So hopefully one day there'll be a regional conference that we can all go to.
Thank you, Melissa. That's very kind of you to say that. Thank you.
She was great.
I wish I'd been able to make it to Columbus. My supervisor went, if anyone saw Bree from Tampa Bay.
Good.
Yeah, that was a really good time. And Jillian, you did a great job. I am of, the only person in my department. But I say that, but I'm supported by my senior director of family services, who will help out and will task me with certain things. And then our director of house operations, we kind of work in concert together. I will definitely vet all volunteers and onboard volunteers and train volunteers and be the touch point for volunteers. But our family room director will manage those family room volunteers when they're in the family room, and if I'm doing other things like community outreach, my other teammate will help support those volunteers. But for the most part, I handle all volunteers, group volunteers, meal volunteers, event volunteers. So yeah.
And it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. My supervisor, before me and my teammate came on, she was doing everything from being there at 8 p.m. training evening volunteers or weekend volunteers to being there at 6 in the morning for breakfast meal groups that were coming on site to make pancakes and everything. So it really does get difficult. And I think that all chapters eventually reach a size where it just doesn't make sense to have all of those multiple things falling on one person's shoulders. So I'll use that as a segue to bring us to one of our next points that I wanted to discuss, which is kind of at what point it reaches that, I don't want to say breaking point, because all of us here are very capable, I know, and are able to, carry multiple eggs in one basket. But at one point, is it worth opening the conversation with leadership teams about expanding the volunteer services? For us, it did become that point where my supervisor was just putting in like 1 or 2 12+ hour days a week, and it just wasn't sustainable anymore. Not to mention that she wanted to expand her role into other things that went past just volunteers, went more into the community engagement side, but we were just physically locked off by the fact that she was already doing so much with training the in-house volunteers, which every person here knows takes up so much time, just that entire onboarding process. And we've had meetings and think tanks in the past talking about ways to optimize the onboarding process. If you weren't around for that one a few months ago, feel free to check out the notes in our OneNote. But anyway, I'll pose that question to you guys, kind of for your own teams, maybe some of you that do have larger departments. At what point did it just become necessary?
Well, in South Florida, we are groundbreaking the new house next week. So we're super excited. We're almost doubling. Well, we have 30 rooms now. We're going to have 54. And I believe, I believe that's going to be, I know that when they hired me, she said, oh, I wish I could have a coordinator for you. But I think that's going to be, a great time to do so, because we're going to have more, a kitchen. We're going to have bigger, more areas to accommodate volunteers, and things are just it's gonna get to a point that, yes, I haven't been able to, in my role, to really do what I've wanted to do, really, which is more community engagement, because of all the calls and all the, the shuffling the calendar, and it's just nonstop. Every time I have an opportunity to do so, or I come up with a plan, I never get too far. So hopefully with the new house, we'll be able to start doing that.
Congratulations. Glad you guys are breaking ground so soon.
Yes.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that come
Send
together.
pictures. Yeah.
Please, off and make a little road trip. But that brings up a really good point, that it is the day-to-day answering volunteers and things that we don't want to get behind on. But when you're focusing on just what's coming up in the inbox or in the voicemail box each day, it's hard to take a step back and think more strategically about things like outreach and things like expanding the program for more corporate groups. Katie, you brought up a point earlier that has really struck true for us recently, which is bringing on an intern. We have a great partnership with University of Tampa, which is just down the street from us. They have a Bonner program. I don't know if that's something that any of the schools near you guys do as well, but it's a 4-year kind of internship program where students get matched up with a local nonprofit. We actually just started last year, but the fun thing is that they match us with someone new every single year. So last year we just had one intern. Her name's Liv, and she was a freshman. And UT is like very strict about freshmen not having cars, so it was a little challenging because she wasn't super mobile. But now she's a sophomore. But now there's another incoming freshman that's going to get matched with us in about a month. And then next year we'll have the two of them and another freshman. And then by year 4, we're always going to have this kind of rotation of 4 different interns helping us out for our volunteer management department, which we're really excited for. We're trying to find more like processes and procedures to try to off-put some of those more operational, like daily things of answering emails and scheduling volunteers, trying to push a few more of those onto the interns' plate so that CR gets opened up to do more of the trainings and just fill more open positions. Does anyone else, have you guys had success with interns specifically for your volunteer services department?
I mean,
Yeah,
oh, sorry, you go, Amanda. I was just gonna say, we love our intern. So highly recommend intern and Bonner. Extremely recommend.
Yeah, yay. Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm the volunteer and community outreach manager at Ronald McDonald House in the Northwest in Spokane. And thank you so much for including me on the think tank. I really appreciate it. And this is really good timing because we are just, Trinette, our executive director, and our staff are just bringing on work study groups. So similar thing, the interns, and they just walked into my office the other day and they're like, you're getting a work study student. And I was like, that's awesome. But I was also like, oh my gosh, that's one person to manage, and what actually can I hand off to them? So I'm really glad to hear that that's worked well for y'all. And if you have any recommendations of what projects to give them and not, I'm definitely open and looking for kind of suggestions around there. I always have projects and ideas for my volunteers, and so I have projects and ideas for them already, but I know that our work study people can't take on, replace a job, right, or a position. And so I was thinking, oh, maybe they can help with some of my emailing those new volunteers and making calls, but wasn't exactly sure what was allowed and not. So if you guys have suggestions, I'm open, and feel free to email me versus doing it on this call as well. But thank you so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Amanda, if you ever wanted to set out like if you ever want to, we've used interns for like a really long time now. So if you ever do want to just like plan a meeting on it sometime, happy to like have a whole touch base meeting on interns and what we use like the Bonner students for and all of that. Like just focus on that. If you ever want to like send an email, I'm more than happy to set something like that up.
Amazing. Okay, thank you.
But yes, generally what you were just saying is really what I highly recommend. Literally, I think like an intern is almost like essential for our team, just in the sense of even just managing the volunteer inbox. They do a lot of that. And what you guys were saying before about like template emails, that's what makes that possible. So if you don't have template emails, get some of those up, and then that makes it really easy to train our intern on how to use those template emails to respond to a lot of like the basic inquiries and phone calls that'll come in. We still take all of the higher level, I guess, inquiries that come in, but we get so many of those just like base level inquiries that they could just send the template email back, maybe edit it a little bit. And it's so, we use them for a lot of other things as well. So please don't think we just have our intern on the typing away at emails all day, but that is a lifesaver.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, and thankfully, Kara, the volunteer manager before me, was amazing and created lots of templates. So I will start using those for them. Okay, great. Thank you.
Katie, I do actually have a specific question on that. Do you guys use the intern for like phone calls specifically? And if so, is it only like in the certain time frame that they're on site? Because to me, it's one thing to just copy and paste a template, but it's the phone calls. And I currently have all of those like meal group specific questions forwarded to my phone, where even just answering a very simple question that is on our website always turns into a 10 or 12-minute conversation that just takes up so much of your time. I'm sure you can agree.
Yep. Yeah, we 100% use interns for phone calls. Again, if it's like a more complicated one where it's like a conference or a serve day or something like that, usually we'll be the ones to take those calls. But if it's just like what should I make for dinner? Or like you're totally right. Those turn into like 20-minute phone calls on the regular. I will say that takes more training, but it's totally worth it. And we have both interns every semester that do like essentially like 20 hours a week with us. There it is. Yep. And then we'll also have Bonner students who come in about like 7 hours a week or so just during like the semester. And so we have both of them do phone calls. But it does take a little bit more training, but it's totally worth it. Like actually it will be a lot at the start of each semester, but like the amount of payoff you get during the rest of the semester is like so helpful. Literally cannot express enough. We literally could not do our jobs without an additional intern.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really encouraging to hear. And that's why I'm excited about the Bonner program too, is that it's not kind of just this plug and chug of like they're with you for a year and right as the intern starts really figuring things out, then they're gone. I like that we get this 4-year like building relationships so that the freshmen can be doing like certain things and then the juniors and seniors will work their way up to like those phone calls and things.
We just started with an intern, and I remember a long time ago when I was an intern going to a place and them having me make coffee and just things that really weren't, what I really wanted to do. So to me, it was important, like the first few times for the intern to really get her engaged with something that I was doing. We were doing, we did field trips during the summer, and so we took her. She was, she got to engage with families. She got to engage with meal groups. Now I have her doing, calls and things like that. But that got her a little bit excited about working here and really being engaged. Because I remember being an intern. I didn't want that to happen to her. I want her to keep her motivated.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I started as an intern too, but back 3 years ago. And that was the experience I had was the good one, where thankfully my current supervisor was also really passionate about interns. And I feel like it made such a difference because they and when we do this with current interns as well, but like involve them in team meetings, bring them to community events, have them help lead serve days, see what they're interested in. Like our current intern is helping with our pet therapy program. That really makes a huge difference for the interns. And I think we're at the stage now where we'll have interns recommending their friends for the internship. And so then we'll get other good interns.
Katie, I always laugh at how Casey and Bree are the same person.
Yep. Yes, they are.
Um, so I want to direct a question specifically to those 8 of us that said that we are a volunteer management department of 1. First of all, tip of the cap to you, because I can only imagine how challenging that is in some ways. Just running your own department in general, even if it is a smaller house size. But obviously, I'm sure we can all agree that even if we are the only person directly managing volunteers, that there are so many different staff members that interact with our volunteers on a day-to-day basis, whether it's the house managers or our facilities team, or even like the meal groups that come in, like other volunteers. So I want to ask some of you guys, do you have best practices on ways that you have had meetings and discussions and maybe even trainings with other house staff on how to go about managing volunteers? Because obviously none of us, if you are a 1-person department, you can't be there in the house managing volunteers, 24 hours every single day. So what are some ways that you've set up systems for success surrounding the rest of your team when it comes to volunteers?
I can go because I am a team of 1. Yes. But again, we have so many other people that touch volunteering, because obviously, I can't be in the house. So our house staff are great about giving our new volunteers their tours, or like when our groups come in for meal programs, making sure they've got the cart set up with all the things that they need and making sure they're comfortable and all of those things. But I will say my team is really good about providing a lot of suggestions about how we can make things better. I've only been here 3 months, so in Adelaide, if anybody remembers Adelaide from before, she left things in a really great place. Like, she had a SharePoint with everything detailed out. She has templates. She's got everything, you name it, which has been super helpful. But my team is really eager and has a lot of ideas of things to implement. But it's kind of like, even with me being here for 3 months and I feel like I have a good handle on things, it's like hard to figure out like how to implement these new things on top of the things that I'm still trying to just make sure are like steady and good. So I guess my point in saying all this though is that I'm open to suggestions for best practices, because I know for us, like, we do have 2 houses and we're talking about, implementing like an official like volunteer orientation where they can actually come and get their tour and things beforehand. So ideally I could take that off of the house staff's plate and like actually be more present in the house and just making sure they're settled and can be more of a face for our volunteers rather than just being behind email and things like that. So I'm like, that's an idea, but it's like, how do we implement it? And personally, because I'm technically a part of the leadership team, I think it's really just because I'm the only one that's in charge of volunteers, because half of my job is community engagement, but we do have a VP of community engagement that's on leadership also. So, but yeah, we're only in office Tuesdays and Thursdays also. So my Monday, Wednesday, Friday are remote. I can do everything online really, but when we've got new volunteers that are starting, I have to get their welcome bags and all their materials to the houses. And sometimes we have groups that could use my support, especially at the corporate level where I do need to be in the house. So it's just like kind of at an interesting point of like, how do we start these new things, but also maintain the things that I've already got going on. So I'm open to any suggestions.
So we're kind of in a similar boat in the sense that I am a 1-person team, but I also have like our house managers who are very involved with our volunteers day to day, things like that. But I take care of all like the orientations and all of the volunteer email inbox. I take care of all the event volunteers. I take care of, very similar to what Alex was saying too. What I struggle with is we have 2 houses as well. And so my main house, I don't work remotely, so I'm always in office. But so I travel back and forth to both houses because I have volunteer orientations, I have things like that. So I I always tell the house managers, like, there's no way I could do my job without them, as well as the interns that we have. So we also have interns too, and they're a huge help as well. So I sometimes struggle with, so I'm also in charge of community outreach. So I sometimes struggle with that part of my job because I'm so focused on everything else that I'm like, oh shoot, there's community outreach involved with my position too. And so I kind of struggle with getting that completed. So I guess I don't really know what I'm saying, but that's essentially where I'm at with things. So.
No, that's a good point you bring up, Caroline. This obviously isn't like an end-all, be-all solution to anything, but my first thought when you say that is actually the topic we discussed during our last think tank, which is specialty volunteers and almost utilizing volunteers to help manage your volunteers in a way. So something that we've adopted more recently that's been really helpful because, like I said, we have a 3-person team, but we only have one person who is actively training volunteers, and that's across 5 different houses. So she's really done a good job utilizing shadow trainers. So we have a reserve of some of our best volunteers that have been with us for, 8 or 10 or more years. So she'll ask them if they actually want to go through the entire training procedure with a new volunteer, which has really helped open up her time to be in other places. And as far as outreach, we talked a lot during that last meeting about ambassador volunteers, or at least I did talk about ambassadors for a long time. And that for us has been really helpful too, because we've just been getting more and more requests for outreach events at schools and corporate events and, this and that. So it's really been nice, in addition to me and my supervisor going out to these events that are maybe the larger speaking presentations in front of, like 100 employees at some hotel. But some of the smaller ones are like school functions. We have some of our volunteers that really enjoy that public speaking element, and we've been able to really utilize them as a resource to, again, just free up our own time and almost utilize the volunteers as support for the volunteer service department. It's been pretty cool.
Yes, I got a lot out of that meeting, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I see, Amanda, it looks like you had your hand raised first, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was actually going to talk about ambassadors, so that's great that you already have talked about it in a meeting. We don't have community ambassadors yet for our volunteers, but Hunter Hughes in North Carolina had given me that recommendation. And so I'm excited to kind of use that as our regular volunteers who've been here for a few years, giving them that opportunity to go speak in the community, and that kind of lifts that off my plate, Caroline. Yeah, that's what I was thinking was, okay, having these community ambassadors go to the university service fair and be that point person, and that could be a 5-hour thing, and so that helps save me 5 hours. And what I really appreciated about what Hunter said about the program is it's kind of an honor if you present the community ambassador as a badge of honor. So, it's like the next step, and then that way they get to feel really proud about having been, around for a while, and that we trust them to go out into the community. I also go out and myself have connected with restaurants and asking them to, donate food to us, and that's another area that I can have those community ambassadors go and ask, the restaurants, hey, we're Ronald McDonald House, and do you guys have, want to give once a month to our house, those kind of things. So I'm also one-person department, but like I said, we're getting those interns as well, and our family services team helps a lot. So I really trust them. Like they know if it's other than orientation, if I'm not there, I can just leave them a message that says, have the volunteer do X, Y, and Z, and the family service team can help kind of take it from there, which is really nice. The last thing I was going to say is that what has been so helpful is the active task board. So we have a whiteboard right above our volunteer check-in, and every day I put up like 4 projects that need to get done, and I make sure to hand that off to the front desk team. That way, if I'm not there, the front desk can help delegate to the volunteers, or the family service team can add to that task board, or our maintenance crew can. And so that's a lot of times where I don't feel like I have to be at the house guiding volunteers to say this and this and this needs to be done, but to help delegate that program. So that was the other thing I wanted to hand off.
Stephanie, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna just say. So I jumped in early because I was not thinking the same direction as you, Dylan. But I will say that I'm betting that some of you are in the same boat that I am. Where the reason that I'm a single person department is because budget is hard to justify for more than one person. And so I'm very thankful for my supervisor who thought creatively with me about that a couple of years ago when I first brought up that like the job was getting to be beyond me, and I knew it. And just as an indicator, one of the things that we have, I'm sure you guys, many of you, if not all of you, have similar things, which is a performance plan, or where you set out goals for your year. And I was not able to meet my goals on a consistent basis. And it wasn't because I had grand goals that were unreachable. They were very reachable if I had time. And so she was able to make that argument on my behalf. And while still the budgetary constraint is there, what she did is that she said, well, it's apparently easy for the board to justify additional people on the family services team. And so that's how I got a portion of their time. So the leads, I have 20% of their time, even though technically they don't report to me, they aren't part of my team. But it has been a game changer because like me going on vacation for 2 weeks, I could never have done that. Without that support. And it took us about a year and a half of, 2 years ago, we started the conversation. A year and a half ago, I had a volunteer came on as a specialty volunteer who demonstrated that support was needed and that things did ease, that I got to a couple more things with his help. And then when he stepped away, that was when we needed to have the paid team members. And so we've done a very slow graduated approach, but I do think that the time is not terribly distant. I can't guarantee it, but I think the time is not terribly distant when I'll have a second person in my department and we can do a full restructure and division of responsibilities. But it's taken a lot and some creative thinking on if the board won't say yes to this, or if the executive director doesn't say yes to this structure, is there another way to get that support? So that's my encouragement to all of you.
Yes, to answer your question, we're recording this meeting live, and Stephanie is, I'm sure, doing a lovely job taking live notes. So we'll send a follow-up email with that recording available, and also the link to all of the notes for all of our think tanks for the last couple of years. But thanks for being here. So this is more on like the personal, like only applies to our chapter side. But if you'll allow me to rant for a little bit about our, I think, unique situation. I mentioned a little earlier that specifically like me and my supervisor, our career paths have just taken some like winds and unexpected turns. So not only do I do a lot of our community engagement, but I also run our planned giving suite, and I'm on like the fundraising side as like maybe 60% of my job, and then 40% I'm still in community, two very mostly unrelated things. And then my supervisor does maybe like 30% community and also all of our corporate engagement and third-party fundraisers. And she's also running our McDonald's partnership, which we're really trying to put more resources into. So in our ideal worlds, we've talked with our leadership team about we don't really feel that both of us giving like less than half of our time is giving community engagement and that side of volunteerism the attention it deserves. So in a real ideal world where our budget is allowing us to be like hiring full-time positions again, we really wanted me to just focus on the planned giving side, her to focus on more like corporate engagement, corporate partnerships, and then hire a full-time person just for community engagement. So that's just wanted to share kind of some of our, like, I'm just ranting, but it's just been a unique situation where our in-house individual volunteer program is being spearheaded really strongly by my good friend Kiara. And then community engagement is a little bit of us juggling one too many plates sometimes, but that's why we're having this discussion today, is that everyone's structure is different and we all do whatever we can to stuff enough work into whatever few hours we get per day. Is that story totally AWOL to everyone else? Is there anyone else that does like volunteer services and this other thing? I always joke that we're in the nonprofit world, and especially Ronald McDonald House, so we all just wear a million different hats. So I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that to some degree.
That's actually like an ongoing joke at our house, is that all of the staff, I think we have maybe 15 now total full-time staff for Maine for both houses. And it's just a joke that no matter what job you have, you always have a different job too.
Yeah. And just as the departments move around, people leave and people come on, and then different things get put on your plate. And then once that's on your plate, it's hard to get rid of.
And we literally have everybody's job description. I think even our executive director has other duties as assigned as part of our job description, right? So it does mean you could do literally any job.
We kept joking about that other duties as assigned around this time last year. God, I need to knock on some wood, but you all know that Tampa Bay got hit with some hurricanes pretty badly. So we were all here on a Monday with gloves and masks on, just throwing things into dumpsters out of our admin office. And it was, one of those things where it's like, a for-profit business would absolutely just hire a company to come out and do this, but that's not where we are. And this is, you're doing your social media too. Yeah, that's par for the course, I'm afraid.
No, it's both one of the biggest challenges and one of the things I really like about my job. Like, I like not doing the exact same thing all the time. I would get bored, but I also know my volunteers do deserve more than I am able to give them. Like, someone mentioned that, facilitating at Summit, so many great ideas. And I was like, I would love to do every single thing everyone just said, but like that just isn't possible. And even some of the things that aren't that onerous, I'm like, I just know I wouldn't be able to facilitate that well right now, because I'm also doing all these other big pieces that are very important to our organization. And so it's a little bit of a catch-22. Like, I like the variety and I like doing lots of different things, but I prefer to do things really well. And so when I don't, that doesn't feel good for me. And I'm sure it doesn't feel good for our volunteers either.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point, but it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
And I do think that is how you can justify it as you need to grow, of like, here's what I'm able to do. Here are all these ideas, like here are best practices, things that I know this think tank is talking about, that I'm learning at conferences, that we could do if I had more support, or if we had another staff member, or whatever that looks like for your organization, because we know volunteers are such a valuable resource. And so if you recruit them, you train them well, you retain them well, like that is all value added to the organization. And so that's, another way to kind of approach that conversation of what does it save your organization if I'm able to do a really good job with these volunteers and they stick around for a long time and offer a lot to us.
And I think that actually even the people who aren't part of your department or not your supervisors can be good advocates, because I'm thinking about like our development team. They're wonderful. They have grand goals to engage more of the community, because they, like, right now that's not a big part of my role. It hopefully will become, but they're out there and saying we want to have more meal groups, but there's no way that I can correspond with all of those groups. As it is, I am busy, I'm not getting to things, and we don't have a community group here coming every day, right? So if that's their goal, is to get to the point where 5 to 7 times a week, there's a group coming in that they have engaged, and I can't follow up and give them a good experience, it won't work. So giving them framework and let them argue on your behalf, it's also a great tool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whenever I am joking with like donors or even just friends and family about the million hats that we all wear, I joke about how some days I'm delivering pizzas to the house. But the truth of the matter is the only reason that I'm delivering pizzas that get donated is because we couldn't identify a volunteer that was able to do that. So it really does all come back to getting that support. And obviously there's going to be times where a volunteer, has a last minute commitment or is out sick or something, and we're happy to fill in for them. But especially like those delivery volunteers, it really just takes a lot of the weight off of the rest of your team, and in some cases you yourself, when we're able to identify volunteers that we trust for those things. Well, we have about 20 minutes left, 15 or 20 minutes. So the last thing that I wanted to discuss, of course, if anyone has thoughts on any other topic, feel free to jump in with it. But for those of us that are on teams of 2 or 3 or even more people, and even those of us that aren't, kind of going back to that question I asked about making sure other staff are prepared and feel equipped to manage volunteers in the situation that you're out or you're not there. What do your guys' meetings look like within your volunteer management department? How often are you guys sitting down in a room together, or even on Teams or Google Meet, and actually discussing both on like an operational side, just specific things that volunteers need, and a little more broadly, like strategy wise, where you want to see your volunteer department going? Alex, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a team of 1, but I'm supported by all other administration. And we have a Monday huddle. I mean, we do a huddle every Monday. And I think it's really great for our house that we sit down. Each individual kind of brings to the table what is going on. That's a day, that is a time of the day where, I mean, it's Mondays, so it really starts the week off good. And you can say, this is what I have coming up. This is where we need help with volunteers, or I might say, this is where I have volunteers that need stuff to do. And then there's also our director of house operations is the manager of our part-time evening and weekend staff. We call them GRS, guest relations staff, and they we'll have a meeting once a month, and we'll pull in at least one of the admin in there. Like I'll come in and I'll say, we're going to have meal providers on these days. These are days we don't have meal providers, and we can utilize a front desk volunteer or a house volunteer that is supporting you at that time to prep the meal, or make sure that the meal is served on time, things like that. So yeah, we kind of, I guess in a nutshell, we all at least have once a month meetings, but our admin, we like to do it every Monday morning. And it's really benefit. And then the ones that can't make it, like our family room, manager will not be able to necessarily come over from the hospital all the time. So we'll take notes just like we're doing here. So yeah.
To add on to that, we don't do weekly huddles. We do daily huddles for the operations team, but we do have a document that's in OneNote that everyone, no matter their role, has access to, where you can plug in if you're expecting any visitors. So if the development team has a meeting that day, or their, our executive director has somebody coming by, that gets dropped in there so that the front desk team can see that and can coordinate. But that also is helpful because then that's where they plan out which volunteers need tours and who's going to do that, or what food is being provided by volunteers. So we know where, if we need to heat up a freezer meal. So a lot of the stuff that's day-to-day concerns is recorded there, so that morning huddle, even if you're not there for that, it's conveyed to everybody throughout the day, because the hardest things are drop-in visitors and then volunteer groups. So if those two things can be mitigated a bit in that plan, that helps a lot. Oh, and then task lists, similar to Amanda, those of you who've been around a while, you know how passionate I am about our task lists, because we have them laminated by area, It says how many people, where the tools are, what you're going to do in that area. And that has helped a ton because we just have them ready to go at the front desk, and our team can pull any that are priority and put them out first, or they can just say, here's the stack, do them in whatever order. And it gives it an easy way for them to manage tasks that need to be done every single day.
Jillian, were you going to say something? And then Katie raised her hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not exactly what you asked, but you were talking about having a document. We, for our entire staff, not just for our volunteer or ops team, we have a Teams thread that's just called weekly updates. And so like I post for programs and operations and volunteers, someone else posts for the business team, someone else posts for the development team. And it is just helpful. Some of those things of like, hey, I've got, you know, a corporate group coming in that would be great if people wanted to come say hello to and thank them for their support, or, you know, like those kinds of things that I can add in there so that the whole organization can be a part of it. And some of it isn't, you know, as relevant to volunteers, but we have found that to be somewhat helpful because we don't meet as frequently. Like as an entire staff, we meet monthly, and then as a smaller team, we meet about monthly on a different cadence as well. But it just kind of helps keep us all in the loop.
Yeah, honestly, all I wanted to say was, Stephanie, we actually just recently implemented one of your suggestions, which was to have task lists for like cleaning groups when they come in that goes over like the different cleaning things in each space. Oh my gosh, such a game changer. Literally, like it's made having serve days so much easier, and the groups love it too, because we will literally give them the checklist like you had suggested, and they love it. They love to be able to see everything that needs to be done, and it's made our workload and like the house team's workload like way better for like those big group cleaning projects. So thank you for that suggestion, because that has helped us a lot.
We stole the exact same thing and broke it down by room, like what exact items in like the playroom and in the living room and the entertainment room need to be done. And it sounds so simple, but it really does make a difference. Just because to us who are in the house all the time, it's like, oh, duh, clean the playroom. I know what that entails. But for a group that it's their first time in the house, just having that itemized checklist is a real game changer.
And I will, I know Alex, I think it was you who requested, but I will drop that in the notes for the think tank. And again, we'll remind you all of the playlists for our YouTube, and then I'll send out the link for the notebook. So I'll drop them in there, and I will drop the newest one because we just updated. So we have 32 task lists now that 26 of them are used every day, and the other ones are saved for big groups. So yeah, I'll drop those in.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Cool. Well, we've got about 12 minutes left. I've honestly loved all of the discussion that we've had so far. I kind of had an idea that today's topic would just kind of zig and zag all over the place and touch a bunch of different things, but I think that's awesome. I think that's a big part of why we all are here for these think tanks, is just general conversation and ideas. And at the end of the day, I think, at least for me, a big part of it is being able to just share what your chapter does with a room of people that actually get it and understands in their own way what we're all going through in volunteer management. So but I just want to open the floor for any other kind of general discussion. If anyone has any questions on anything that anyone else said.
I was going to suggest those of you who have been with your chapter during a transition time like me, where you have built support and it looked a different way, if you would be willing to be a resource to those who are wanting resource, would you drop your email in the chat and maybe say what transition things you feel equipped to answer, or kind of give a sense of, so that anybody else who wants to build a case to their supervisor might have that. That'd be super helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm curious to hear. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a random, I guess, random question. We were kind of talking, I guess, about all of our hats that we wear. We don't have anyone on staff who's got community engagement in their title. And so it's just been, whenever we get a request, myself and the development team will kind of look at it and we'll decide who should go depending on who it is and what they want. And as we're recently, our VP of development recently just, kind of tried to break it down to make it less gray area for us about who goes and does what. For the most part, it's going to me for anything really, any requests of things outside of the house. And I know things like volunteer tabling, that kind of stuff, you have to be present for, but I'm kind of trying, I haven't done one yet, but like proposing to some groups to do just virtual presentations or like video call presentations rather than going to their location, just to try to help with that. So I guess I'm curious if anyone has been doing that kind of community presentations, or any other thing you'd like to share about how community outreach or engagement and going off site works for your house.
I've been doing that since COVID, actually, because I came into my position when it was COVID, and I had a lot of school groups who were doing remote projects for us where they do note cards or something. And I thought, like, it's really hard when you're not present in the house. How do you feel connected? And if you're a kid, how do you feel connected? So it sort of began with that, and now it's works out well because we have a big, very secure facility that I cannot visit in person, and they do remote projects for us. And so I've got a slide deck that I go through that talks about what we do in the house. Of course, it doesn't show everything. I have my own script that I've developed, but it has been a game changer because it means it's easier for me to say yes to midday things. And I'm using it now for our hospitality carts that are not here in our valley, that I can use it for that training as well, because they are supporting us in a different way and they need to understand our house, but they can't view it in person. So it's been a great tool, and I'd be happy to talk more about that if you want. But yeah, highly recommend, because it has given me so much more flexibility.
That's a great point. And one thing I'll add that I've actually more recently started doing for when we get outreach requests and our staff and volunteers just aren't available for it, so we can't send someone, I'll definitely send our slide deck still. But like you said, Stephanie, it loses a lot of the context when it's just someone kind of clicking through the slides. But one thing, when there's not someone knowledgeable there to speak on all the different programs and the statistics and all of that, what I think is most impactful is just a family story. Try to tug on the heartstrings a little more to showcase what we do. So we have some hidden videos on our YouTube that we use for like our gala and other kind of events. So I'll literally just send the link to like a 2-minute little video to whoever's hosting the event, and I've got some really great feedback on those. All right. Did anyone else have any kind of final thoughts?
Well, I had one more question. Anybody who wants to can pitch in, but I'm curious if there's as you kind of like scroll through the tools that your team uses to successfully manage volunteers, whether you're technically one person or more, what's in your mind the non-negotiable tool that is successful for you, that you're like, if everything else is gone, I will fight to the death for this one?
That's a great question.
If I had one tool that did everything, I would be a millionaire, or at least a thousandaire, because I would sell it to all of your chapters.
I saw Chicago say Volunteer Hub, and I would like to second that. That was one I really fought for in our chapter to get, and I've done a lot of like setting it up. So I know the time from before we had like the volunteer management platform to the time now, and it's a different world, and I can't go back. I can't go back now. So I don't know. That's the one I would say too.
I'm so excited to hear you say that, because we're in the process of doing Volunteer Hub, although I've been in the process for over a year because, again, I have so many other things on my plate, and it turns out it's very time consuming to start. But I know once I get it there, it will be great. I just have to get it there. So thank you for saying that, because now I'm like, okay, it's worth it. It's going to be worth it.
That's
It
one
really is
also.
time consuming to start. Yeah, sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if I put my email in the chat if you ever wanted to benchmark on it. I did like a lot of our like setup for it and have a lot of like templates I could send you and things like that. So just feel free to send me an email.
Our team like drove our butts like 3 hours round trip to Orlando specifically to talk to Katie and her team about implementing Volunteer Hub. So not to advertise your time, but I'd highly recommend that. We just got onto the new system this year in January, and we absolutely love it. I would agree that that's the one thing that has really already transformed our volunteer program by just bringing all these different pieces under one umbrella. And the advice that we got from Katie and her team that was really helpful is to not focus on getting everything ready on the back end and then pushing it all out at once. We really took like a tiered, phased approach where we started with our meal program, which felt like the most important need, and that opened in January. And we only opened Volunteer Hub for our in-house volunteers like 2 or 3 months ago. So someone told me that a year ago. I'm sorry, I would time travel a year ago if I could, but we were a little late to the Volunteer Hub party too, but we're happy to be here now. And speaking of that,
I agree with the databases. We don't use Volunteer Hub, we use Volunteer Local, but I would fight to the death for that particular platform. Not that I'm throwing shade at the rest of you who don't use it, because you have your reasons for yours. But for me, it has been a game changer. And to have everything in one place, to have automated reminders that I don't have to send, to have all the information, like that's what a platform will do for you. Whatever platform you choose one that has those features that take those things off your plate is the thing that I will say. Because I think there's a lot of smaller chapters that, you know, like the expense can be a challenge. And that's one of the reasons that we were able to say yes to the one that we have, is because it's not expensive, but it still is, I think, very robust. And so to have those things come off your plate makes a difference, because if you're working off of a spreadsheet and sending manual reminders and manual thank yous, that is a huge lift that you do not have to do. And there's some, I think there's even one platform I've heard of that's even more affordable than the one we have. So they are out there, and you just might need to do a little research to find it.
Yeah, great point. But if you need one more person in your corner for defending Volunteer Hub in your budget, we were told this by their team, and we can honestly back up that it feels like a part-time employee as far as just what it's able to free up for your team's time. I'm obviously not sponsored by Volunteer Hub, but it's real good. They do good stuff. Any other kind of systems or sites or even best practices that help you guys? I'll share one more quick one. I don't know if other chapters use shift notes, but specifically for our house teams, that's really helpful. It's just one site where anyone can input like live notes under different categories. So we do that for like anytime a staff member has any kind of conversation with a family staying in the house, that'll get put under that family's kind of not file, but you know, under their category. And for us, it's helpful for our volunteer department to communicate with the houses, like what volunteers will be in that day, and if we have groups or anything. Since even our 3 people, we can't be in all 5 houses at once. Yeah, Stephanie.
I was just going to share my second in line is Microsoft Planner is what we use. But if you have the Google Suite, I think Keep is the same thing, where I have it by day. And then on my planner board, I have, you know, who are the different volunteer groups, who's my contact, how many people are coming, which jobs did I tell them they could do. So it's all kind of collapsed there, and everybody on our team has access to that. It's also how our family services team manages their shift notes. So the tasks that are theirs to do, who did it, who didn't. So they have all of those checklists that recur daily, so that those tasks get done. So I love that tool, and I did not know I would love it as much.
That's good to know. That's great. All right, guys. Well, it's about that time. If anyone has any other thoughts or anything they want to share, you should all have access to the OneNote, so feel free to throw it in there. But just want to say thank you all for being here. Wonderful discussion as always. I always really look forward to these think tank meetings, and I'm glad that you guys do too. Speaking of, our next one, maybe I'll get it right this time, but our next one is scheduled for November 7th at the same time. We're going to be, I believe that's going to be our last think tank for the year. We usually take December off since we know just how hectic it is for everyone. But November 7th, we're going to be discussing kind of long-term strategies. So a 3 to 5 year plan for you and your volunteer department. So that'll be a really exciting one right as we're getting into like the end of the year when people start thinking about like the next year and even down the line from there.
Sorry, I keep hopping on. One more thing, if to our members and those who watch the recording later, this is the time when those of us who host meetings are thinking ahead into next year, because we need to set the dates and we need to set our topics. So if you have feedback for us, and if you've been like, I only got to watch the recordings this year because the time didn't work for me, we would be really grateful for your input about that. Those of you who've attended, if there's something that you'd like to delve in deeper or something that you would like to see come back to from the 4 years ago when we started, we really would love to hear from you. You can email us at rmhcvolunteerism@gmail.com, and then we are happy to have your feedback, have your thoughts, have your questions, so that we can keep facilitating valuable conversations. So thank you all.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Stephanie. All right, guys, it was a great time seeing you all today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a beautiful weekend, and we'll see all of you soon.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
I know you've got to